Hello, welcome to Beyond the Boundary. This is the round 23 edition. We've got plenty to get through. As always, a massive round of footy. We've got Nick to my right, as always. How are you, mate?
I'm great, Josh. Geez, this season's gone quick. It's our final home and away edition from the season. Come a long way since round one.
Certainly have. The audio issues have been fixed up since the early days. And Vinay on my left, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, we've seen a lot of things, haven't we? The mic issues, the audio issues, but it's good to be here in the last round and arguably the most important round, if I don't overstate things.
Looking forward to finals. It'll all be sorted out. Who will make the eight this round? If you haven't already heard, if you haven't seen the promo, there's a link in the description for our finals coverage. We are, of course, covering the finals. And we'll have one preview, one specific video for each final. 10 to 15 minute comprehensive preview of each game.
Very in-depth coverage.
Yep, and news and views each week will be continuing through the finals. So look out for that. As I said, link in the description to the finals promo.
For sure.
The tips, Josh. You've got another one on us.
Yep.
8 out of 9 this week.
Pulling away.
What frustrates me now is the GWS. This is like the Melbourne Bulldogs tip.
Yeah.
The team we tipped was ahead for 90% of the game, and they just get pipped to the post. You got the luck of the Irish, Josh. I was trying to.
No luck, mate.
That's why you're wearing your green today.
No luck.
That's why you're wearing
whatsoever.
He's a lucky.
And Josh now running away with it.
He's on time to either luck or peptides. But
Josh is running away with it. He's on 135 now. I'm on 130. Vinay, he's folded for the year.
I've shut up shop for the year.
On 127.
I'm doing
and as always, a reminder, we're not taking risks to try and get one up on Josh. We're giving our honest reflection on who we think will win the game. It's not like an in-house tipping competition where we're just trying to beat each other. That's our honest tips, who we think will win.
And those honest tips will be clarified for you on Friday.
On AFL season information, off-season news, 6 p.m. we'll post them there.
Good segue.
First, the opportunity.
First game of the round, Collingwood versus Hawthorn, Friday night at the MCG. Last time these two teams played, it was Hawthorn by 29 points, who have won the last 6 encounters. Collingwood defeated the Giants, as we said, by 8 points on the weekend, and Josh Thomas, he got the 3 votes from us. He was great.
He was absolutely fantastic, and I don't care who it was against, but that is a truly gutsy win.
Really was.
By Collingwood. They lost Swan, Young and McCaffer in the first half. And they managed to pull out a win, which is absolutely phenomenal.
It's unbelievable. You know, I'm thinking now, I still don't know who kicked their goals because they were missing, Travis Clogue. Dane Beams is good for 2 goals, a goal a game. Ben Reid.
Yep.
It's just unbelievable the amount of injuries they've had. Now they've got 3
For any
more.
team to win whatsoever, doesn't matter that it's GWS, win whatsoever, coming in with that injury list and then 3 game-ending injuries in the first half.
Yep.
That is so gutsy.
It's tough because, Josh, halfway through the year, Collingwood were struggling to get their best team out on the park. Now it looks like they're going to struggle to get a team out on the park.
Yeah.
That is,
Well, almost half their list is unavailable.
Correct. Yeah.
There are murmurs that Nick Maxwell will temporarily come out of retirement to play against Hawthorn this week. That is how desperate this has got.
That is no lie.
Yes, that is not a lie. Obviously, we can't confirm it, but we can confirm that he was training.
Yep.
So take from that what you will. But it's a gutsy win, and I think Collingwood, it's very similar to what happened to them against Gold Coast. In that game, Gold Coast were the ones that lost Ablett, McKenzie, Cole Jasny, all due to injury, and they were down on 1 rotation. No rotations, actually. Yeah. And now it's Collingwood that were in that situation. They managed to pull out a win away from home as well.
Maybe taking a leaf out of Gold Coast book there.
Yeah, it's good to see they're showing such spirit. And Scott Pendlebury, Josh,
was absolutely phenomenal.
Led from the front. He's the kind of player you need to stand up when they're in that kind of situation.
And we forget about him, but I tell you what, if any player if we had to say one player was very close to Gary Ablett at the moment in terms of consistent weekly output, then it would have to be this man.
We spoke about Josh Thomas earlier at the start of the show, but he and Tim Broomhead have just been big Broomy and side bump.
Yep.
Have just been fantastic. All 3 of them really stood up on the weekend and kicked those goals. I think they kicked 7 between them.
Broomhead, Thomas, and
side bottom. So,
Yep.
fantastic effort by those 3, especially Thomas and Broomhead, 2 young kids coming through. I've said before, Broomhead reminds me a lot of Steel side bottom.
Yep.
So,
well, that Collingwood midfield looks severely depleted now, doesn't it? At the start of the year, it was probably one of the best, if not the best, with Pendlebury, Swan, Beam, side bottom.
Yeah, it's almost looking at the point where this could have a long-term effect on the football club.
Yep.
Because there's definitely the 2 ACLs there with Schoenberg on the weekend in the VFL. Now
That's
McCaffrey,
tragedy, isn't it? Yeah.
Now McCaffrey in the AFL. That's tragic for both those players. Not only does that severely hurt Schoenberg's development, but this is just a period of time where Collingwood have phased out their retirements. They've staggered them over a couple of years. They need these young first-year kids to be coming straight in, playing full seasons. And now Schoenberg has missed 2 in a row.
They spent, I think, pick 6 on Schoenberg, and
That pick is cursed.
That pick is definitely cursed. There is something apart, unless you're Chad Wingard, but
McCaffrey's what, 26 years old?
Yes,
Yeah,
around thereabouts. But I think the most important, the sad thing is that their number 6 draft pick, their first round pick, will have to wait till 2016. They'll have to wait till 2016 just to get him on the park. How long it'll take after that to develop him, to get him going, that's all,
And then on McCaffrey, he's 26 years old. He played 4 games in 2 years, something like that. He's come in, he's played a full season. He's been very, very good this year as a tagger. And now he'll miss all of next year doing the ACL so late in this season. He'll be 27 years old when he comes back. That's severely hurt his career as well.
Before we move on to the Hawks, boys, Heretier Lumumba, Jamie Elliott and Alan Tuvia, all 50-50 chances of playing this week. So much needed if they do come in.
Jeez, they need those boys back.
The likes of Patrick Karnesis, Kyle Martin, Paul Seedsman has been playing in the VFL.
Which is surprising because he's very damaging, yes.
Ben Kennedy and Corey Galt are all likely
to come in,
all likely possible inclusions to come in.
Moving on to Hawthorn, they defeated my boys, the Cats, by 23 points. Definitely a game of 2 halves there, I think we'd all agree.
They defied the
Who won
odds.
that game? Who won that game, sorry?
Hawthorn.
It was definitely Hawthorn, I think.
The mighty Hawks won that game.
Bugger off. But I tell you what, they defied the odds, really, because they came from Perth on a 6-day break after arguably one of the toughest games of the year against Fremantle, where they were pressured, they were hit hard with tackles. They defied the odds against a Geelong side who's come off an 8-day break.
Well, we've all tipped Geelong because, as you said,
I was certain that Geelong would win, to be honest.
Polar opposite preparations coming into this game. We saw a 10-goal turnaround in the game, and you're unsure sort of what to make from the game. Hawthorn looked poor earlier in the game, and then they looked absolutely terrific with 10 goals straight. Whereas Geelong, they looked great in the first half, and then they looked very poor in the second half. Make of it what you will, but Hawthorn definitely proved they were probably trying hard off the encounter and probably better when the pressure was on.
I was a little uneasy about something that Chris Scott said, but remind me of that in the Geelong preview, and I'll get to that when we speak about the Cats.
I think Hawthorn, just their key players started to lift, and that's what got them back in the game. Sean Burgoyne got very involved. Jordan Lewis was probably the man that conjured that comeback, to be honest, for me. He had another, I think, 20-something disposals.
25.
A goal, a couple of score assists, 4 hit-outs as well, so he's just doing absolutely everything.
He's gathered 9 votes in our Player of the Year in the last 5 weeks. He's bowled in every single game in the last 5 weeks.
I'm going to go as far to say, although he's probably 28, 29 now, I'm saying he's in career best form.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've never seen him play this well before.
John Lewis was very influential, but I actually thought Will Langford was probably best on ground.
Another one you're right.
That was, I think he kicked 2 of those goals in that 10-goal run, and those were clutch goals. I think one of them was from outside 50. He was just marking everything on half forward. I expected him to play a shutdown role on Joel Selwood, but he was the man that needed someone shutting him down, Will Langford.
Well, Al Clarkson actually really likes Will Langford. We've seen that through the year, and he debuted him in round 1, I think.
I think so, yeah.
So, he's gotten frequent games. Then we saw Brendan Bolton come in and Langford went back to the VFL, and then Clarkson came back in charge and straight back into the side. Yeah, so I think he's just one of those players that Clarko really likes and sees as a future, leader of the club.
Boys, I want to ask you something. Ben McAvoy at the start of the year was touted as a steal.
Looked like Hawthorn was the winner for pick 23 and Shane Savage.
Yeah,
or pick 18 and Shane Savage.
Luke Dunstan and Shane Savage, in essence,
All of a sudden, that's starting to
look like the Saints have gotten the better end of that stick.
Jonathan Segler has taken over Ben McAvoy.
Well, I was going to say, I don't think you should take credit away from Jonathan Segler because I think he's been very, very good for them. He's been their informed ruckman in the AFL season and then in the VFL since he's been dropped. David Hale, a lot of Hawthorn supporters thought he was lucky to get a game this week. But I guess he offers more up forward than McAvoy does.
Well, I think Hawthorn supporters who thought he was lucky to be picked this week, I think Hawthorn supporters were lucky that he played this week because he was the one that really, really kicked. I think he kicked 3 in the end.
Yep.
They were all during really crucial periods. He was taking, like Nick said, good contested marks. But
Segler even went forward and took a great contested mark late in the game as well.
So, and Hawthorn really build their game around that, don't they? The ruckman that can go forward and kick goals.
So everyone's questioned these decisions, but in the end it looks like they made the right decisions. But as you say, if McAvoy's failing to stand up and push his case further than these 2 ruckmen are, where does he sit now for the Hawthorn Football Club?
Well, interesting. I want to ask you boys, which ruck combination would you go with into finals?
I probably really like the one they've got now. I really like having the ones.
Hale and Segler?
Hale and Segler looks pretty good. The only change I might make is McAvoy and Segler, but I really honestly think you've got to keep
Hale.
Well, Hale, in a sense, has replaced Franklin as the forward in that side. Jack Gunston was in the side when Franklin and Roughhead played together.
Is it plausible at all to play all three? West Coast type situation where you're playing all three?
I don't think so, no.
No?
I think that's too tall.
Whereas you've got Cox, Nick Nui and Lysette are all three pretty mobile ruckmen.
That's true, yeah.
Whereas I don't see...
They're all big kind of men.
I see, depending on how well Hale plays as a forward this week, I think they should stick with what they've got.
Yep.
Which is
good point, Nick. Yeah.
Tragic for McAvoy going to a club wanting to play finals, but that's just the case. I see there. The tips, boys. Who do we think is going to win this very important game?
Absolutely. Matthew Suckling's in doubt with that ankle injury.
He was subbed out again.
One little stat I do want to bring up is Hawthorn have averaged 130 points in their last 5 games against Collingwood.
Averaged. That's crazy. Yep.
So,
wow.
I think
especially against an undermanned Collingwood defence.
They'll push that again on the weekend and win by a comfortable 67.
Oh, wow.
67. I'm going to say Hawthorn by 31. I think Collingwood will be absolutely desperate to win this game, but they still won't get too close.
I think I'm going to see eye to eye a bit more with Nick there. I'm not sure about 67, but I think the Hawks will get it done by about 36. But then Josh is leading the tipping comp, so maybe I'm the one that's deluded, but let's move on.
Moving on to Carlton versus Essendon. It's Saturday afternoon at the MCG. Last time those two teams played, it was Essendon by 81, who have won the last 3 encounters between these two sides. Carlton... They lost to Port by 103 points on the weekend.
They had a nightmare on the weekend.
What happened?
I think that this was probably coming, to be honest. Anyone who had really closely followed Carlton's form before that would know that this was coming. And I'm not saying that because they were playing poorly, but because they'd played so many intense, close games.
What was their month before that?
The month before that, they had played Fremantle at Patterson's. They had played Geelong. I think it was at Simmons Stadium.
No, that was at Etihad.
It was at Etihad, okay, and Hawthorn.
Yeah.
So they was in that month as well. So
not Hawthorn.
No, they played Hawthorn.
No, they did.
They played Hawthorn.
They did. It might have been maybe 5 weeks ago. So just outside that month.
Yeah, probably two
okay.
or so months.
But the thing is, they've played a lot of top quality sides. They had that game against North Melbourne as well, which was a close one.
Yeah.
They've played some really, really top class, hard running sides as well.
Yeah.
All in the space of a few weeks. And all these games have been very close.
Yeah.
And Port Adelaide,
so they've thrown everything at them, trying to knock off one of these top teams.
Exactly, yeah. They've literally just thrown the kitchen sink at every single one of these teams. Then they had to fly down to Adelaide Oval and face a record crowd of 52,000.
52,500.
Yep. And, I think it just all unravelled for them, unfortunately.
Well, their whole club suffered a pretty heavy weekend. I mean...
100 in the AFL. 103 in the AFL they lost by.
The VFL side lost by over 100 as well. And the VFL reserves lost by over 100 as well. So...
Not a good week to be a Carlton fan.
And I think also it's worth mentioning that their skipper Mark Murphy, who looked really good in that game early.
Yeah.
It's just doing something very courageous and ended up being subbed out.
Should be okay to play.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, but that just sucks even more wind out of the sails when you got your number one player going down.
Moving on to the Bombers, they defeated Gold Coast by 19 points. They looked a bit shaky in that game at one point.
Not just at one point, Nick.
But Michael Hurley definitely didn't look shaky. He got the 3 votes.
Absolutely, he was fantastic. He's a defender. I don't care what anyone says. He's something. Defender.
He's probably one of the worst top 5 picks to ever be taken. But continue.
You're just trying to get a bite out of me there.
Yeah, all right, you got me. But
go on. But he's actually a very good rebounding defender as well. He uses the ball very well. His disposal average has gone up by 7. He only averaged 13 last year.
And he's a very good mark.
He had 28 touches on the weekend, didn't he?
Yeah.
He's a very good mark, and he always has been. Even when he played forward, he had a good pair of hands. It was just his conversion that hurt him. So he's a good mark.
I feel that the Bombers might need a 10-15% lift before they play finals because
I agree.
Last couple of weeks haven't been great. Well, even the last month really lost 2 to Sydney and Richmond. Narrowly got over the line against West Coast. Led for most of the game against the Gold Coast Suns, but still wasn't overly convinced. But feel we needed probably a 10-15% lift.
I think you look at West Coast and Gold Coast. Gold Coast obviously had a smaller period of time where they were dominating, but they probably should have won in the sense that there were chances there that they really let go begging.
Yeah.
And West Coast, again, they were leading for the majority of the game, but then they, slipped their chances up. So Essendon have had a couple of games where they've just managed to, sneak through.
Enough.
But just do enough. They're a good enough team to be able to get over the top. But like Josh said, I don't think against the quality of clubs in the top 8, that's going to get them through. In round 1, it's likely
on current form anyway.
In round 1, it's likely that they'll probably play North Melbourne. And North, you saw them against Adelaide. Adelaide didn't take their chances. They were, I think, 14 points ahead in the last quarter.
Yeah,
and they ended up losing. So
Essendon definitely need to lift
Essendon
there.
need to lift it to match.
Another player who was great, I thought, was Brendan Goddard. Took a great pack contested mark.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Played himself into form, I feel.
He's been quiet, hasn't he?
He has. He had 28 disposals and 3 goals. I really missed him playing in the midfield. The last month or so he's been playing forward.
And half-back.
And half-back. He thrust it into the midfield, got his hands on the footy, and floated forward and kicked 3 goals. I think that's what he does best. One player I do want to bring up is Tom Bellchambers. I feel that he can come into the side and it really releases the pressure on Paddy Ryder. It allows Paddy Ryder to go forward. Ryder's a very good contested mark.
I agree.
And is the best set shot at goal at the club.
For any, and I'd probably say he's one of the best set shots in the AFL. I'd go as far to say that. And he's also, like you mentioned, one of those West Coast type ruckmen. He's very mobile. Yeah. He's very fit and he's very quick. So although he's a very good overhead mark, he can also get around the ground very quickly. Yeah. But let me just reel off Tommy Bellchambers' stats for you in the VFL. He had 18 disposals, a goal, and 52 hitouts.
Who did he play against?
Geelong VFL.
Yeah.
So he came up against a man by the name of Alexis Van Jarnen. Nick doesn't really like him.
I'm pretty sure his name's Andrew.
Andrew Van Jarnen.
From. Anyway.
But anyway, back to Bellchambers. We just found that name pretty humorous if you're wondering what we're on about.
Vinay found it humorous.
If you're wondering what we're on about. But Bellchambers, I don't think he's in any better form now. You got to get him in.
Yeah.
It's the perfect time just before finals to give him a hit. And would you be bringing him back in, Josh?
I would be, yeah. That's why I brought it up.
Okay. Guys, Essendon definitely won't be taking this game lightly because there is still a slight chance that they could drop out of the finals.
Very slight.
Yeah. Who do we think is going to win this game?
Bombers should win. Should get Dyson Heppel back.
Oh, that'll be good.
Cade Simpson's been very quiet in the last 2 weeks. I'd like to see a lift from him, even though they are playing against us. But he's a terrific player. Bryce Gibbs had a fantastic year.
Well, at half-time last week, Cade Simpson had 4 disposals, I believe, and 3 of them were from play-ons to a kick-in.
Yeah.
So
Zach Merritt's been fantastic. I think Essendon should win by about 5 goals, but I do see it as a danger game.
I'm going to say Essendon by 19 points. Carlton will push them, but Essendon will get the job done. Yep. Too important for them.
I agree, guys. I'm going to go along that vein. I think the Bombers getting Heppel back is a big one, so I think they'll get it done by 20 points.
This is probably the biggest game of the round, I would say. It's Fremantle versus Port Adelaide, most important for the premiership chances. Saturday afternoon at Patterson Stadium. Last time these two teams met, it was Port Adelaide by 18 points. Alapati Carlisle plays his 150th game for the Power. Now, Freo defeated Brisbane by 58 points in the weekend, guys, and Stephen Hill was brilliant.
Absolutely. He's taken his game to another level, in my opinion. He had 26 and a goal on the weekend. He was absolutely phenomenal. He's taken his disposal average up 4, I think, this year. So he's getting his hands more on the footy. And when he does that, he's very, very damaging.
Oh, he's, in my book, I will say it now, probably the most damaging wingman in the AFL. No other wingman that I can think of. I'm thinking maybe Isaac Smith, but apart from this man, Stephen Hill, he's just an absolute star, and he's what you want from a wingman.
Brandon Ellis?
No, I'm going to go Stephen Hill by a country mile. I'm sorry to Tiger fans out there, but Brandon Ellis' ability to win his own ball is about as good as I'm trying to think of something.
Watch yourself.
I'm trying to think of something here, but I can't. But he's not a very good contested ball winner. He's very, very poor at that. Whereas Stephen Hill actually played as a starting midfielder in the centre square this week.
Okay.
And he had 6 clearances, so it tells you about his inside ball winning capacity. He kicks goals from long range. His kicking accuracy is just sublime.
On the run.
The run. He could be at top speed and he'll hit someone on the chest. Yeah. And who could forget that goal he kicked against Geelong?
Bugger off.
Playing half the field.
Running down half the field. And then if you watch closely, you'll actually see Nick.
Yeah.
That actually lands on my fist.
Yeah. He's in the cheer squad, so there's that. But so he's just an absolute star. Hayden Ballantyne.
And Michael Walters.
Words out of my mouth.
And Michael Walters. Absolute guns. Michael Walters, the favourite of Ross Lyon. He's not wasted any time coming back into the side.
They are the best small forward combination in the competition.
I agree.
By the length of the Flemington Straight times 100.
Jeez, that's a bit of an exaggeration.
It's not.
Tell us about what Walters did on the weekend, Josh.
What did he do?
How did he play?
Fantastic. He kicked 3 goals. He set up a number of goals. He and Ballantyne kicked 6 goals, 6 between them. So it could have been a lot more. And had 35 disposals between them. So... dynamic.
What's that, Josh? Bad kicking is bad football? No.
Well, dynamic, definitely, I think. And there's the thing about Hayden Ballantyne. Player of the Year, he has actually gotten more votes than some big names, to be honest. He has. And that tells you that the kind of games that he has, when he performs, he goes big. He's that kind of guy that can kick 5 on his day. So Fremantle will be looking to continue that good form.
Before we go over to Port Adelaide, boys, no Fife Bolo this week,
I was
obviously,
just about to
but
say that,
potentially no Matthew Pavlich either. He's 50-50. And another kid I want to mention, Matthew Taberner, has been very, very good the last couple of weeks. He had 22 disposals on the weekend, 10 marks and kicked the goal. So he's been fantastic.
Moving on to the Power, who, as we said in the Carlton preview, defeated Carlton by 103 points. Robbie Gray, this kid is an absolute star. Best on ground by a mile for him.
Robbie the kid. I think we've all developed man crushes on this man.
Well, I've had one for a very long time.
Yes, I think that's true. But there is, and what amazes me, believe it or not, boys, he was tagged the whole night. Andrew Carazzo
just broke through it.
Andrew Carazzo was tagging him the whole night, and he finished with 31 disposals and 4 goals. And Andrew Carazzo's no mug.
No, he's not.
He's been around the block a few times. He kept Joel Selwood very quiet the week before. So
in the second half.
He's a good tagger, and
Robbie
Robbie
still gave him votes.
So I should have.
Robbie Gray managed to just blow that tag away. He had 2 goals in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he just never looked like stopping. And he's going to be one of their big players in the finals. I can see it already.
They had their fitness back.
They did.
They did. You're
Friday
right.
night.
You did. You're right.
They just ran all over Carlton.
Yep.
They came into this game knowing they needed a percentage boost because they're facing Fremantle the following week, this week. They needed to get their percentage up, and that's what they did. 103 points. They really got the job done there.
You're right. And I think some other players that, have been pretty average for the second half of the season that have come back.
Westhoff and Wingard.
I can see your mouths just forming.
Played themselves into form.
Yep. Westhoff played, I think, the start of the game in defence, and then he swung back into the forward line as he always does, and he ended up with 3 goals. Chad Wingard was just spectacular. He had 19 touches, 3 goals, I think 9 marks or 10 marks.
Yeah, 3 goals, 19 disposals, 12 marks.
Okay, well there you go.
Nice.
So he was back into the the really prolific kind of player that we know him to be.
A lot on the line for these two boys, 2 teams, boys. Who are we tipping?
The winner finishes in top 4 with Port Adelaide with the superior percentage now.
I am going to go first with the tips, if that's all right with you boys. I am going to say Fremantle will win this game.
By how much?
24 points.
And why is that?
And the reason I'm saying that is just because at Patterson Stadium, I don't see any reason. I thought maybe if they played poorly against Brisbane, then maybe there's some room for, but they did not play any differently. Fife and Barlow going out, they've learned to adjust, so I'm going to tip them.
Guys, I do see a reason why Port Adelaide can win this game. It's because you need to finish top 4 if you want any chance to win the premiership. I think Port Adelaide will win. Fremantle without Fife and Barlow, potentially without Pavlich. Ross Lyon says he'll play, but I don't believe a word that comes out of Ross Lyon's mouth, to be honest. Big chance of a late change there.
Whack.
Port Adelaide...
Sorry, Ross.
Port Adelaide will win by 2 points. They'll finish top 4.
Fremantle won 6 of the last 7 between these two teams, and they'll make it 7 out of 8. Fremantle by 21.
Sydney versus Richmond, another huge game. Saturday afternoon at ANZ Stadium. Last time these two teams met, it was Sydney by 11 points. Chris Newman, huge milestone for him. He plays his 250th, and Lewis Jetta plays his 100th game. Boys, Sydney, they defeated the Bulldogs by 63 points on the weekend. Lance Franklin, 6 goals. That's 15 goals in 2 weeks. He got the 3 votes.
Very, very dominant performance by Big Bud. He's pushed himself almost into the 70s in the Collingwood medal, which hasn't been seen for a couple of years. So that's fantastic to see. He's wrapped up the Coleman. I don't think anyone will kick on.
Barring some ridiculous goal ball. And
they also wrapped up the Minor Premiership as well on the weekend. They've got a superior percentage to Hawthorn and Geelong, so even if they do lose, they'll wrap it up quite well. Luke Parker was just absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, unbelievable. How is this kid only 22? Someone tell me that.
How he went at pick 40.
Yes.
Astounds me.
It's unbelievable. He laid, 10 tackles, kicked 2 goals, set up 2 goals.
I think his stats to half time, he had something like 20-something disposals.
20-something disposals, already kicked a goal, and he had 7 tackles.
Well, he had 32 disposals, 11 tackles and a goal, so that is just a phenomenal output from Luke Parker.
And Dan Hanbury was also really good, coming back from injury. Yep. He's probably the first week that he's...
All their stars really standing up for them.
How did he go, Josh, Dan Hanbury?
I don't have his stats in front of me, so thanks for putting me on the spot there.
Well, I know that he did kick a very, very nice goal.
I think he had 29 and 1 from memory, so I may not be wrong on that, right on that one. But
earned himself the 1 vote, so he was very, very good there.
Absolutely. Jake Lloyd, boys, received the Rising Star nomination last week. He was good again. He had 21 disposals and 2 goals. We spoke about last week how these guys come in and have an impact. And Jake Lloyd's come in. He's part of that academy, I believe, that the Sydney Swans have. 21 disposals, 2 goals. He's keeping Ryan O'Keefe outside at the moment.
Definitely. And, all these players that come in are just keeping some other really good player out of the team. The good thing was that Tom Mitchell did finally come back.
Yeah.
He had an okay game on return.
23, I think.
Yep, not bad. Return for the Swans.
How many bloody midfielders do they want?
Wow. Yeah, they've got a lot, don't they?
But who can blame them?
Another one that was really good was Nic Malcheski.
Yeah.
I thought he was superb off half-back. He ended up with the 23 disposals, I think 7 marks.
Loves finals time, doesn't he?
He does. He had 10 rebound 50s, Josh, so no prizes for guessing where he was playing. And he kicked 2 goals as well.
First one of the game.
Correct. So that tells you about how valuable a good rebounding defender can be.
Before we go to the Tigers, boys, I think a really good move that John Longmire has made, I was almost going to say Paul Roos then.
Yeah.
John Longmire that has made is Gary Ryan to half-back.
Perfect. Every time I watch it, I think that, but I forget to mention it.
He only had 9 disposals on the weekend.
Yep.
But when he gets the ball, he breaks the lines.
Oh, yeah.
And to have that coming off your half-back line is just phenomenal.
You're right.
Harry O'Brien, doesn't he, Josh? Breaking the lines off
half-back
there?
Who's Harry O'Brien?
What Sydney were lacking was pace coming out of their half-back line. Ever since Lewis Jett has been pushed onto a wing, their back line, they've got Grundy, they've got Nic Malcheski, Reece Shaw, but none of them
Ted
really
Richards.
have... Pardon?
Ted Richards.
Yep, but none of them really have any major pace.
Yeah.
But they're all good users of the ball. Gary Rohan, you're right. He's just that pace factor, and he's a good tackler as well.
Yeah.
So he's that physical added kind of pressure and that defensive half, and he's found a home there.
The difference with Rowan and Lumumba is that Rowan can use the ball, but Lumumba can't.
Moving on to Richmond, who defeated St Kilda by 26 points. Probably would have liked to win by a little bit more, but they got the job done in the end. Brett Deledio, he's been in some great form recently.
Oh, unbelievable.
Best on ground.
Unbelievable.
Back to his best at the right time of the year.
He's probably the best half forward in the game when he's on song. He's kicked a minimum of...
It's interesting you say that, half forward.
Yeah, well, that's where he's been playing.
That's where he's been playing.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, the last 3 weeks, he has kicked a minimum of 2 goals and had a minimum of 25 disposals in each of those games.
Yeah.
So that is almost like, the kind of stats you'd associate with guys like Gary Ablett or Nathan Fife who do that kind of thing. So, or even, a Joel Selwood who kicks goals. But I think Brett Deledio, this is what Richmond have missed for almost all the year. It's interesting because now Trent Cotchin has gone back into his shell. And he's gone missing for a couple of games, but Deledio was lifted out of sight.
Still getting it done without him. Basher Hooley's another one who's in some great form.
Yeah, 29 disposals from Basher on the weekend, so that was fantastic to see from him.
Bashed him up.
He bashed him up, yes, well played. Ricky Pettit as well, I thought was fantastic on the weekend. Stiff to miss out on the votes, I thought. I mean, I don't give the votes, but he had 23 disposals, 14 marks.
Yeah, he does that a lot. He plays that loose man in half-back, and he's a good sort of strong body that just... drops into the right spots and takes the mark.
If there's one player I asked you who needs to fire on the weekend for Richmond to win, who is it?
Jack Rewalt.
This week? Definitely Jack Rewalt.
Has to be Jack Rewalt.
How many did he kick this week?
Kicked 6 on the weekend.
Against his cousin?
Against his cousin, who was fantastic.
Again, as usual.
We'll get into that in the St Kilda preview, but Jack Rewalt was fantastic on the weekend. Back to his leading best. He was kicking in from everywhere. He needs to fire if the Tigers are going to win.
I think the problem with him has been his marking this year.
Yep.
Because when he gets the ball, he very rarely misses. I think everyone knows that he's a very accurate set shot. Accurate in general, but it's just he's often been double teamed. He's often dropped the marks that he usually take. And like you mentioned, he hasn't been leading out as hard. So that's something, if he can fix, Sydney have got someone on their hands this week.
Troy Chaplin, Alex Rance, Dylan Grimes obviously got a very, very big job on their hands. Especially if Sam Reid comes in, who was a late withdrawal.
They got Tippo,
but
Franklin.
There's Goods, Tippett, Franklin, the lot of them. So
doesn't sound good, does it?
This is that game that Richmond has been building up to for the last 8 weeks. They've won 8 in a row coming into this game. Sydney's in some great form on top of the ladder. Can the Tigers get it done?
Well, Stephen Morris on Twitter this morning said, "Is it Saturday yet?" They played last night, so you can just see how much these Tigers are waiting for Saturday afternoon.
Oh, they're keen. I think a lot of that has to do with they're nervous as well. I think they just want to get.
I'm not sure how much stock you can put into a team willing themselves to win. Like, as opposed to being the better team on the day,
Well, the Tigers do that better than anyone, don't they?
Yeah.
If you had to give out an award for the best club that wills themselves to win, it would be the Tigers.
Well, that's going to be the factor in this game. It's not going to be who has the more skilled players. It's they're so desperate after 8 wins in a row.
And you look at the Sydney Swans, opposite picture. They're not really desperate. I mean, they're going to play their best footy, but they're not going. They're going. We've got to win this, boys.
I honestly think they don't want to flirt with form, but they'll be cruising into this game thinking we don't want injuries first week of finals.
But I think also what we need to realise, Sydney's a very proud club.
Yeah.
They're very, very proud. They don't like losing to anyone, regardless of the circumstance.
John Longmire said he'll play his best side.
Correct.
So,
and I think it says a lot. I think if they play their best side, Nick, and they lose, that really, the rest of the clubs in the comp, that gives them a signal that Sydney does not want to send out. So I can see them really fighting tooth and nail.
I think there's a sniff for the Tigers, but as you said, Sydney's a proud club. I think they'll be too good in the end. Unfortunately for Tigers fans, I think Sydney will get the job done by 20 points.
Yep.
Yeah, this game's at ANZ Stadium.
Well, that's the other opening for the
Sydney
Tigers.
don't have the best record there.
No, they don't. And I was tempted. If this game was at the SCG, I'd tip Sydney by about 6 or 7 goals.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's at ANZ Stadium
reduces that.
It's a bigger ground. They don't play on it very often. I still think Sydney will get up, but I give Richmond a massive chance.
Yeah.
How many points?
10.
I'm going to say Sydney as well, boys, by 16 points. The fact that they're playing their full team tells me that there are players in that side that don't just relent. They're all just unrelenting players, so they're going to win it by 16.
Moving on to North Melbourne versus Melbourne, Saturday night at Etihad Stadium. Last time these two teams played, it was North by 41 points, who have won the last 12 over the Demons. Can you believe that?
I can, really.
Well, Melbourne seem to have that kind of a record with a lot of clubs, to be honest.
Mark Jamar plays his 150th game. Now, North have sewn up their final spots. We'll race through this one. But they defeated Adelaide by 7 points on the weekend. And Jack Siebel, they moved him forward, and it was absolutely exceptional.
I was watching this game.
He looked like a key forward.
That was a masterstroke.
This is why Jack Siebel went to top 10 pick. He showed us why. He was prolific through the midfield. He's one of the hardest players to tackle. Yep. He's quick. He's extremely quick and got good acceleration. And every time that ball went inside 50, he looked like he was going to mark it. And these were big pack marks.
Yeah.
If you look at one of them, it was a pack where there was Sam Jacobs and Tom Goldstein and
he's flown over.
And he's just flown over the top of all of them and taking a mark.
And it was getting to the point where the commentators was suggesting, and I think everybody agreed, do you move a key defender to him instead of trying to
good point,
like a tagger or a shutdown small defender? Because he was just such a good contested mark, and that's what won them the game. No doubt, that is what won them the game.
I definitely agree with you, Nick. He hit 2 of the goals that revived them, 3 in the second half. But one of the men who hasn't been his biggest fan, he's been a bit of a critic, but he's also acknowledged his potential. He's sitting next to me. I'm going to give him his chance to talk about Jack Siebel.
Jack Siebel, well, this is what frustrates me. Performances like this he can do.
He can he?
He's a terrific footballer.
He is, yeah.
I'm not saying he's a bad footballer.
Yeah.
My frustration with Jack Siebel is we don't see it enough.
Maybe they should sub off old mate Ben Brown every week and throw Jack Siebel down there permanently.
Well, he is Brad Scott's favourite player, boys.
Who, Ben Brown?
No, Jack Siebel. Oh. But on Ben Brown, this kid is a champion.
Give me the finger.
Sorry about that. No malice intended there, Josh. That was just a stray finger, but...
but Ben Brown's actually proven himself a very solid
I really like this kid.
He's actually a 2-year deal.
He's actually relatively agile. I saw Adelaide, they still had a sniff late in the game. Very important breakaway off half-back. And he's, just got that fingertip to the ball. Which
correct. That's
ended up setting up a North Melbourne goal.
And that other goal as well.
And that was straight to Jack Siebel.
There was another goal where the inside 50 was pretty poor. And Ben Brown running towards the boundary snapped it over his left shoulder to get a goal. So he's going to be a star in the future, boys. Andrew Swallow and Ryan Bastanak.
They're also great.
Andrew Swallow's clearance work in that last quarter.
Oh, my goodness.
Absolutely phenomenal.
He had 12 disposals, 7 contested.
He had the last 5 clearances of the game.
Correct.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Yep.
Moving on to the Demons. They lost to West Coast by 66 points, as I think most people expected them to. Bernie Vince stood up. He got the 1 vote in that game.
I reckon he's overtaken Nathan Jones as the best and fairest favourite.
I'd agree with you.
Probably, yeah. He's had some really good games, hasn't he?
Nathan Jones has tailed off a little bit in the second half.
Well, to be fair, he's gotten really hard tags from every team that he's come up against, and it's difficult when every single week you're getting the tag. Yeah. I think at most other clubs, sometimes players switch between, but this guy gets the tag week in, week out.
I still think he's one of the best recruits of the season. Obviously, you got Franklin on fire at the moment.
Well, Josh made a very good point during the week that the recruits that Paul Roos has brought in have actually been exceptional. Dom Tyson has been brilliant. Bernie Vince has been brilliant.
Yeah, Viv Mitchie's making his way in.
Viv Mitchie's getting there, yes, you're right. Cam Pedersen has been very good.
He didn't come in.
Oh, sorry, Daniel Cross, I meant, has been extremely good.
Aidan Riley has been okay, but he's only young. He's played less than 10 senior games, so
and he's looked very capable in the KCVFL.
Absolutely. So the players that Paul Roos has brought in have actually been very, very good.
It's just I think
the rest I just don't have the capacity.
You mentioned it last week. I think it's harsh to say, but it's probably true that a lot of these guys aren't AFL standard.
They're not.
A lot of these guys probably shouldn't be playing AFL, but now anyway, now. But it was a pretty simplistic loss, guys. They came back hard in that last quarter, Melbourne.
Yep.
They kicked 4 goals in that last quarter, so they did fight back. West Coast was sort of surprised by it, I think, but they did fight back and prevent a massive margin, which I think Adelaide fans would be a bit thankful for.
Will it be a massive margin again this week?
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to say North will wrap this up very neatly by about 60 points.
Yeah, North will hit the finals in form, 10-goal win to them.
Quick question. Last game for James Fowler. as a David?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Well, to me, I don't think he's a very good player, to be honest. He struggled a lot against Josh Kennedy on the weekend, but okay, yep, all right, whatever. I don't really care about James Frawley.
Just want to quickly acknowledge Daniel Cross's job on Matt Prentice on the weekend was absolutely phenomenal. So, North by
Correct.
87.
Moving on, Geelong versus Brisbane. It's Saturday night at Simmons Stadium. It's kind of strange to see this game in the Saturday night time slot, to be honest.
The old rivals, Josh.
Last time these two teams played, it was Geelong by 35 points. The Cats, as we mentioned, lost to Hawthorn by 23 points. Mitch Duncan, I wouldn't say it's his best game for the club, but it was certainly up there. He really stood up throughout the entire game when the rest of the team kind of dropped off in the second half.
I think he had 37, didn't he?
Yeah,
37 he finished
Unbelievable.
with.
Oh, yeah.
And a goal, I think. Josh Caddy, ding. He was great again.
It was good to see the return of the ding meter last week.
I didn't see it.
No, it was really good. He said it, I think, 4 times in the space of 20 seconds.
Take it through.
Amusing watching.
No, but Caddy, he backed up his best game for the club the week before. I think he had 23, but 15 of his touches were contested. Which was great to see. And Stephen Motlop was also great. He kicked a...
He was pretty average, actually.
Sorry, Stephen Motlop, he had a great moment, I meant to say.
Yes.
He kicked a great goal from the boundary line. Really good to see him back himself in that. And Andrew Mackey, probably the only other standout, did a great job on Jack Gunston.
Luke Bruce.
Luke Bruce, sorry.
I agree with you there.
The problem for me was Geelong had more of the ball, but were very, very wasteful.
Yeah.
And the thing I wanted to bring up about Chris Scott was that he said it was a positive after the game.
He said
they took a step forward.
Well, I think in a sense we did, because it was a tale of two halves in that, like, you can't tell me that Geelong has gone out and given 10 out of 10 in that second half. Given
but
100%.
in saying that second half fade out has been happening all year.
I agree with that, yep.
Third quarters,
I agree with that.
Third quarters have been a problem all year. Fourth quarters, we've consistently come back. But to half time, you saw quite a good contest in that first half, and you saw Geelong up by 5 goals. What Chris Scott has said is that isolating that first half, we've taken a step forward. They've shown that in the heat of the contest, Geelong can get the job done. They've obviously gone to sleep after half-time. Obviously, that wasn't the plan. And obviously, that's not a positive to see that happen. But I think you're going to see a very different contest in the qualifying final, which will certainly be against Hawthorn. And I don't think this result, Hawthorn kicking 10 straight, was a fair reflection of where the two teams were at.
I think this is just... we've been saying it all year, but the Geelong, they don't shut the gate completely. And we've said all year that one day it's going to haunt them. One time, at least once, they did fail. They didn't do it against GWS, they almost lost. They didn't do it against Carlton, they almost lost. You know, they didn't do it against Essendon, they almost lost. So they've been getting away with it for too long in my book. And I was good to see that Hawthorn came back and shut them out, because I think Geelong is an extremely good side. And I think that if they focus on putting in 4-quarter efforts, they will be, near on a premiership favourite for me.
Could be the wake-up call that we needed.
Exactly.
In every premiership year in this era, we've lost the second last game of the season.
Oh, okay. Well,
throw that one out there.
Well, before we go to Brisbane, who comes in for Kirsten?
Probably Mitch Brown, who is... I hate to say.
Next not happy about it.
But he's been very
It's so much fun getting him to say that Walker and Brown come in.
Shane Kirsten's dad actually posted on my Geelong page saying
the
hamstring's not as bad as first thought, so we might see him play finals.
Josh.
Anyway, moving on to Brisbane,
boys.
They lost to Freo by 48 points. Tom Rockcliffe is an absolute gun.
I want to mention something about...
what are you going to mention?
I'm going to mention something quickly about Tom Rockcliffe.
Go on.
I'm usually his number one supporter. You guys know that.
Yeah.
I'm usually frothing him. I'm usually,
I have a feeling you're going down the same track I am.
I'm usually, the guy that's man crushing him. But this time, he had 45 disposals. Guess how many...
27.
Handballs, correct. But guess how many inside 50s he had? Correct. He had 2 inside 50s from 45 possessions. His score involvements are probably the lowest. I think I've read his score involvements are the lowest of the top 20 disposal averaging midfielders.
Yeah.
And what that tells me is that he gets a lot of it. So what?
Similar path I'm going down.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely a massive fan of Tom Rockcliffe and the work he does. But the reason clubs don't send taggers to him is because he doesn't hurt you.
Well, I think this week he's played Fremantle. And saying, choosing this week to suggest that he doesn't get enough inside 50s, obviously he hasn't done as much as you would like in previous weeks. But Fremantle, off half back, shut you down very, very well. I wouldn't expect too much more from a team like Brisbane with one midfielder standing alone as the standout performer.
Well, you're right, but what we see is that every time Brisbane, You look at Fremantle obviously sent their tag to Pierce Hanley on the weekend, and they got the job done really, really easily.
Yeah.
And every single game that Tom Rockcliffe has these massive 40-plus disposals, he doesn't really seem to impact the game for me.
No.
I mean, the last time these two clubs met at Patterson's, Tom Rockcliffe again had 40-odd.
45.
Didn't get a vote.
And again, didn't get a vote. And Fremantle won by... Well, Brisbane scored, I think, 3 goals in that game. They only managed 23 points.
Yeah.
So, I agree with you there, Josh. Guys like Hanley and Zorko are the ones that do the damage.
They hurt you.
Exactly.
Rockcliffe doesn't...
He gets a lot of ball, but to me, I think a lot of that ball is behind centre.
Yeah.
I think he gets a lot of it in that defensive half up the wings, but he doesn't hurt you enough. And I think that's the key problem.
Probably a fair point. Guys, who are we going to tip in this game? Down Simmons Stadium.
Geelong by 4 goals.
I like that he's done. I think Brisbane will get this done, boys.
Just say Geelong by 4 goals.
Yes.
Interesting. Go on.
Well, you beat them by a point down there last year. They probably should have won.
Go on.
They should have won. You're right.
They should have,
yeah. I'm going to tip Brisbane. Nah, I'm not going to tip Brisbane. I'll tip Geelong, but Brisbane have pushed Geelong the last few times they've played. So I don't think this is All right, now I'm just trying to get wheel on Nick.
You're not getting
all right. Yeah, I think Geelong will probably win this. They'll be really sore from the loss. In front of Simmons' crowd, they should get done by about 5 goals.
I'm going to say Geelong by 54. It's the wake-up they will need. They're not going to...
I'll tell you what, Josh.
No, I think that's second half. Should we revisit this next week?
No.
He's got
Only winding you up, mate. That's fair enough.
Yeah.
Gold Coast versus West Coast. Sunday afternoon at Metricon Stadium. Last time these two teams played, it was West Coast by 3 points.
The Battle of the Coasts.
Who have won all 4 between those two sides, even though it was very close last time. Jamie Cripps plays his 50th game. Charlie Dixon, if selected for the Gold Coast, will play his 50th game. Gold Coast, as we said, they lost to the Bombers by 19 points on the weekend, and Dion Prestia was pretty good.
Yeah, got a first-hand look on them on the weekend, and they were fantastic, I thought. Probably a bit unlucky not to get the win, actually, because they did play well. Their pressure was fantastic early on. Dion Prestia, as he said, had 28 disposals, kicked 2 goals.
Yep.
He was fantastic. Tom Lynch had 4 goals as well, had 8 marks. Absolutely brilliant. Big fan of Harley Bennell, as we all are. But he had 27 disposals, but went at less than 50%. For a guy that uses the ball so well most weeks, to go at less than 50% was not the greatest game for him.
Yep. Couldn't impact the game as much as you would have liked to see him. In previous weeks, the Geelong game earlier in the season, a couple of weeks after that, he emulated their performances again. Just really couldn't put his stamp on the game with his disposal.
I think also one man that had his debut, pick number 20 for Gold Coast. Jack Leslie made his debut for them on the weekend, and he looked okay, I think. Obviously, he's very raw, isn't he? He's still very kind of young. And
you don't know what to expect when these new kids come in for Gold Coast because their reserve side has been so poor.
It hasn't won a game. The season's finished in the NEFL, and the Gold Coast reserve side has not won a single game. So it's odd almost. But
I might sound a little bit harsh on young Leslie here, but I know it was his first game, but surely you know your opponent.
Oh, that's Joe Danaher.
That first goal that Joe Danaher kicked.
I was going to say.
He's feint to his right.
It was so obvious,
ever going to kick it on his right, and Leslie fell.
I think Joe Danaher wasn't even expecting Leslie to follow.
No.
It was so obvious that Danaher was just going to, turn back around and boot on his...
That's my only criticism of the young kid, but he was quite good otherwise.
Otherwise, he was quite strong. Yeah, that's the kind of thing that you learn with experience. He's still very daunting playing against a team like Essendon away from home.
Yeah.
But I think they've got a bright future for Jack. They've really put a lot of effort into him, and he's their pick 20. So...
Yep. Now Gold Coast would need to win this game by something like 120 points if they have any chance of making the 8.
And then they'd need to rely on Richmond and Collingwood.
Which somehow I see is unlikely. The eyes will be on...
Sorry, mate. Just one quick thing. Lost Daniel Gorringe before the game, which was massive for them because they lost Sam Day, who's come out of their forward line. He's had the ruck. I actually thought Sam Day did a very good job on Paddy Ryder in the first half, but in the second half, Paddy Ryder
right on top of him.
Took him to the cleaners. So.
And David Swallow was another one who was spectacular for Gold Coast.
Go to West Coast, mate.
As I was saying, the eyes will all be on West Coast because
they are from coast to coast.
Coast to coast. Very clever, Vinay. Because West Coast I would say they're the biggest chance, as we talked about in News and Views, of the 5 teams with a chance of making the 8, of getting that done. What's so funny, Rico?
Oh, just the facial expressions and he's pulling that.
They defeated the Demons by 66 points. Mark Lacrosse really stood up. He kicked...
Did you say Mark Lacrosse?
I think you did.
Sorry.
Unbelievable. That is just
got himself the 3 votes, but it was slip of the tongue.
I cannot believe you just called him Mark Lacrosse, but yeah, continue.
Dearly missed. He kicked 4 goals and had 23 disposals on the weekend, so... I reckon you would have liked him against Essendon.
He's just an absolute star. He plays in the midfield and then he goes forward. He's arguably one of the hardest runners in the AFL for a forward. And that's why he gets so many disposals along with his goals. He's just a star player. And you're right, we sorely missed him because his set shot accuracy, his cleverness around the ground, he's an extremely clever player. And he just looked at home. There was one stage of play where Kennedy was on the wing. He didn't have any options up forward. And Lacroix ran off the bench and sprinted straight into the pocket and took an uncontested mark.
When Mark Lacroix is up and going, West Coast have one of the most damaging forward lines of the competition.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you saw on the weekend, Jack Darling actually had 3 goals at quarter time.
Yep.
And he only managed, I think, the 3 goals to finish up the game. So, he ended up with 4.
Yep.
So it took him a while to get that. But did he? Lacroix kicked 4, did he?
Yeah.
Lacroix, no. Oh, did he?
And Kennedy
Sure?
kicked 4.
Okay, so between those 3, the big 3, Lacroix, Kennedy, Darling, 11 goals.
Yep.
That shows you what they can do when they're really up and
I
running.
thought Chris Masson was also very good.
Oh, he was excellent. He had 30 disposals at 92% efficiency. How about that? Yeah, so Chris Maston, he's gone missing a lot this season, and he was West Coast number 3 draft pick. So
in that Chris Judd deal.
Correct, along with JJK. But and now he's starting to show what he can. He gets a lot of the ball. He's a good runner. He's a good user, as you can see. But
you'll get a few names back this week, won't you?
Some big names. Some big names. Nick Nadanui's a certainty. You can book him in. He's just had Achilles soreness and was a late withdrawal, but he'll be back. And he's personally said that he would not miss Coxie's last game for the world.
Right.
So he would not miss that. So there you go. And
is it going to be his last game though?
Dean Cox. Last home and away game, I guess, I suppose. But apart from that, Scott Selwood, best and fairest winner, A-grade player, one of the best in the club, will come back. He's worked his butt off to get where he is right now because originally the Medicos had said that he probably won't be able to play for the rest of the season.
Yeah, okay.
But he's worked his butt off in the vein of his elder brother. Yep, took me a while to work that one out. At Geelong. And Elliot Yeo is very likely to come back.
Yep.
After having issues, he's also trained extremely well and will come back. Mark Hutchings may or may not. Whether he comes back or not will determine whether Scott Selwood tags.
This is the West Coast injury list with Vinay.
Complete comprehensive coverage.
Yep.
Guys, West Coast up at Metricon Stadium. They'll want to win. They'll know they need a percentage boosting win here.
Yeah, they do. They don't need to just win. They need to win by reasonable.
2 or 3 goals might not cut it. I'm going to say West Coast by 30 points, which could be touch and go in the end.
West Coast by 27 will have to be on their game because the Suns were very good last week.
You're right. I think the Suns would be tired after 2 really strenuous games against the Bombers and Port.
Yep.
I think West Coast will get this done by about 30 points. No, I'm going to say 20 because if I say 20, we'll win by 30. So
Adelaide versus St.Kilda, Sunday afternoon at Adelaide Oval. Last time these 2 teams met, it was Adelaide by 86 points, who have won the last 3 between these 2 teams. Rory Sloane, great player he is. He plays his 100th game. Good luck to him. Adelaide lost to North by 7 points. Really looked like they were going to win that game, but they just couldn't get it done.
Had their chances. We spoke about it in the North preview. They had their chances, and 13 goals, 16 they kicked. So Pods had a number of chances to kick some goals and miss some easy ones.
I think both sides really had let a lot of chances go. In that third quarter, North Melbourne kicked, I think, 6 behinds.
Yep.
So both sides were really sort of letting their chances go, and North just got on top. You feel bad for Adelaide because the last quarter started, they were 8 points up. And they kicked the first goal of the last quarter. And
Do you feel bad for them though?
Actually, maybe feeling bad was the wrong term. You feel kind of empty, I guess. The fact that they were 14 points up with the first goal. Because often we talk about how important the first goal of the last quarter is.
Yeah.
To get that so early.
Yeah.
And then to end up losing by more than a goal, I think North won by. Was it 7 points? Yep. So it's disappointing, but Adelaide, James Podsiadly for me, he just did some silly things. There was a chance for him to extend Adelaide's lead. He took a mark in the pocket, and then he turned the free kick. He turned the ball over.
Oh, and then
it was very soft. But why would you do that?
Was that the 50-metre penalty on the back of that as well?
No. That was another one.
Was that another one?
That was another one. Yes.
Yeah.
This was one where he marked it in the pocket.
Yeah.
He pushed, I think, Michael Frito. There was not much in it. But there was no need to do it. Michael Frito was not, pushing you. He was just standing the mark. Podsiadly got up and just gave him one.
I saw him do it quite a few times during the game.
Yeah.
He really pushed the boundaries.
And that's when the umpires start to really take notice.
Perhaps he was instructed, or it's just the way he plays, to really try and rough up his opponent. But
what do you think, Nick? I mean, he was at your club for a few years. Well, is that the kind of person he is?
I never really noticed it as this huge it's not something I knew him for.
Yeah.
But sort of 4 or 5 marks he's taken, on the wing, up forward in the pocket, as you said. And all those occasions, he really pushed his opponent, tried to rough him up. And I guess, one occasion he gave away a free kick, another occasion he gave away a free kick, and the 50th for arguing the ump. So
he's just a very frustrating player sometimes.
Jared Lyons, boys, he kicked 3 on the weekend. He's being chased by a few Melbourne clubs apparently. So it's good to see him.
He kicked 3 goals.
It's good to see him probably bumping up his money?
Price tag.
Price tag.
Appeal, yep.
Dangerfield and Sloane were well held on the weekend, just 36 disposals between them.
Yeah.
Dangerfield had a ripping first half. It was well beaten in the second.
Yeah. Barty Crouch was a bit down on what he usually is.
Brad Crouch.
I
thought he was actually very good, to be honest.
How much did he have?
22 and a goal.
Yeah, but in the last month or so, he's averaged about 30 disposals.
Okay.
So
I thought he was quite good.
He still was pretty good, but I think he was just down on his usual self.
Adelaide will need to win this game by 90, 100 points, depending on what West Coast do.
Well, here's a little snippet for you. If West Coast win by 12 points, Adelaide would need to win it by about 90.
Yeah.
So you can say that if West Coast managed to win by about 20 plus, you might be able to shut the book, but you're not certain.
But they're coming up against, there's no better team to come up against than the bottom place side.
And to play them at home. If they could choose any team at any place, they'd go St. Kilda.
It's probably this combination, yeah. Sydney, they lost to Richmond by 26 points. Just...
St Kilda.
Sorry, St Kilda. Not Sydney. Sydney's playing Richmond this week. St Kilda lost to Richmond by 26 points. Just coasting home at the end of the season. Looks like they'll probably end up with a wooden spoon. Lenny Hayes' final game.
So you think they're
gonna miss that guy?
Oh, we're all gonna miss him.
He's such a fantastic.
You just love him.
You'd love to see him really get up for this game, but coming up against Adelaide in this kind of situation,
and he might break the all-time tackling record as well.
I'm not sure how far he's.
I'm not sure he's got to go, but we'll look that up.
We'll let you know next week on News and News.
But in any case, he'll be a champion, sorely missed. They love him, the Saints. They love him to bits. Yeah. And I can tell you that they will try their best for him.
Absolutely.
They will.
Just quickly, Nick Roywald, he was pretty good on the weekend.
Absolutely, he was fantastic. 24 disposals, 2 goals. He's just a workhorse. Lance Franklin 2.0, kicked 3 goals on debut.
Lance Franklin 2.0 is what they're calling Spencer White.
They touted him before he was drafted. He was an ex-Lance Franklin. He moved, kicked... the way he moved was
similar to Lance Franklin.
And he kicked 3 on debut.
So. Well, that's not a bad debut. That's not too shabby, is it?
David Armitage was fantastic as well. 26 disposals and a goal.
So. Guys,
who are we tipping?
Who are we tipping? I'm going to say Adelaide by 100 points, which I haven't done the math, but that's going to be
screw you, Nick.
It's going to be bloody close between my West Coast tip by 30 there and Adelaide by 100.
They'll do their best, Adelaide, but I think they'll just fall short. St Kilda will be resilient. For Lenny, but Adelaide will still get it done quite comfortably by 76.
Yeah, look, I'm going to tip Adelaide by about, I'll say about maybe 30 points. I think the Saints will really get up for Lenny's final game. Get up, Saints! It's Lenny's final game. Do it for Lenny. And do it for West Coast as well. I think that'll be the end result, boys.
Western Bulldogs vs Geelong. I've got to race through this one. Sunday afternoon at Etihad.
They've also got Franklin 2.0, so that's another
Last time these two teams played, it was the Dogs by 27, who have won all 3 between these two sides. The milestones, Kobe Stevens plays 50 games. His 50th game. He's not playing 50 this week. Dylan Shield plays his 150th, and Daniel Giansiracusa plays his last
Dylan
game.
Shield plays his 150th?
Sorry, 50th. That should be... Little typo there. And Daniel Giansiracusa plays his last game.
I don't think he's eligible to play AFL 150 games a game.
And Gia, plays his final game for the Western Bulldogs.
Yeah.
Start of the year, he signed a contract that said he'd jump into a coaching role in 2015. Brendan McCartney has already stated that he will avoid the green vest, which I'm a massive fan of.
I'm very happy about that. He's going to do a Justin Kaczynski on him.
They've struggled for goals all year, and I believe he should have played most of the year as a forward and not the sub.
Some people disagree.
I disagree, personally. The Dogs, they're just outclassed by the better side, Sydney, on the weekend. They lost by 63 points.
I think we're going to miss Gia. He's one of the Lenny Hayes type of players that he's been around forever. He's done a lot for the guys around him.
Yeah.
Gia is probably one of those men that has developed more players around him than any other. One of the, you'd be hard pressed to find a player.
And he does it on game day as well. When he's in the green vest, he gets the kids, he talks to the kids.
He does,
McRae and Rovat, 2 kids I talk about, they had 60 disposals between them on the weekend.
Yeah.
I've said it before, they've got a lot of good young
talent coming through,
young kid midfielders. Young midfielders. Get it out eventually, coming through.
Yep.
They're going to be a force to be reckoned with in that midfield. If they can get either end right, they're going to be very difficult to beat in the future.
Yep, I'd agree with you there, Josh. GWS on the other...
Last of all, the Giants, they were gallant in defeat, you'd say, to the Pies. They lost by 8 points. Toby Green.
Oh, we spoke about him winning his... If you watched us halfway through the year, when he was coming back from the reprimand... And
we really talked about how we wanted him to emulate Tom Liberatore.
He has done that.
He has done exactly that, if not more. Because he had 40-something on the weekend?
42.
42 on the weekend.
29 to half-time or something, wasn't it?
It was absolutely tearing that game apart. It's amazing that he couldn't win it off his own boot, to be honest. Toby Green.
Kicked the goal as well. I mean, he's fully redeemed himself. I mean, I said at the start of the year that I didn't think he was in their best 22 purely because he couldn't use the ball, but he's fixed that up completely.
He's put all up behind him.
Absolutely. Devon Smith, massive fan of this kid. I gave him an unsung hero this week.
He's a very good player.
24 disposals, 2 goals on the weekend. He's a BNF smoky for them.
A Zorko-esque performance from Devon.
He's kicked 25 goals for the year, average 21 disposals, so that's a fantastic...
He's just been a really handy half-forward type
fantastic player. Season. I would not be surprised if he's named in that All-Australian squad of 40, to be honest.
No, okay, well, yeah. He has had a really, really good year.
I don't think he'll get in the side.
Yeah. But he might be in the squad.
I think he might be in the squad, yeah.
So, boys, the final game of the round of the home and away season.
Yep. Dylan Shields' 150th game, huge milestone for him. Who are we going to tip in this game?
After just 2 years as well.
Just 2 years.
Doggies by 34.
Yeah, look, I think the Bulldogs have not come too far, but they have come far and away. Their players have developed a lot, but their results haven't really reflected that. But I think they'll finish off the year somewhat well, and they'll win by about 25 points.
Yeah, I'm going to say the Dogs by 30 points, which brings us to the end of another episode.
By 150 points?
Of Beyond the Boundary.
Boys, looking forward to this round of footy. It's going to be absolutely huge. I mean, Collingwood, Hawthorn, Carlton, Essendon doesn't have a lot of merit to it, but it's a big rivalry.
West Coast, Gold Coast.
Even
Adelaide, St.Kilda.
Port Adelaide, Fremantle, the biggest game of the round.
Sydney v Richmond.
I'll be honest, even Adelaide, St. Kilda, I'll be watching that with great interest.
Absolutely.
Guys, speaking of big events, if you missed it at the start of the episode, we're doing one episode for every final. That's 4 shows in the first week of finals, 2 shows in weeks 2 and 3, and then the big one, the grand final preview and the grand final review. There's a link in the description to the promo, which has the information, scheduling information.
Very good promo. Make sure you check it out.
We'll also be having news and views each week throughout the finals. Look out for that.
Send us any questions as well if you like. Anything you want us to speak about and have our opinion on.
Yep.
Please put it in the comments. Send us an email, btbafl@live.com.au.
Yep. Twitter handles @btbafl, @GusNen, @jrico901, and @VKRelax. I've got that imprinted in my head now.
You have.
Much
like I've got.
Vinay would like to thank someone.
Not for the last time. I shouldn't say that.
Last time in the home away season.
The last time in the home and away season, I would like to thank Valiant boys. It's been an absolute honour thanking them all season. And it's been an honour being associated with them. They're excellent YouTube partners. They've always kept us in the loop. And it's great to work with some of the company that they work with, to be in the same company as them.
Absolutely. Now, next week, the show will be released on Monday night, not Tuesday night, because we're filming on Sunday night at the end of the round.
The 4 or 5 shows even.
Yeah, 5 shows we'll be doing. By then we'll know who's in the finals, who's playing
we
where.
will absolutely cover everything you need for finals. You'll be sitting down watching that game going, I know absolutely everything I need to know for this game.
We'll cover every single game for 10, 15 minutes each. Cannot wait, boys. The business end is here.
Yep.
Let's get into it. Getting exciting, so can't wait.
Like, comment, subscribe. Josh?
Absolutely. It's been a fantastic show, boys. Good luck to your Cats on the weekend. Good luck to your Eagles. Hopefully they get up into the A. There'll be a happy panel if they do.
Yep.
Thanks for joining us, boys. We'll see you next week.